The era of the Vietnam War was a time of unrest and division in America. Many people will say that recent times resonate with the 60s and the early 70s. And I managed to find a pseudo-documentary that set the masses on fire when it was released, and today it has been practically forgotten about. I'm talking about the film Punishment Park, released in 1971, which tackles the very difficult subject of activists versus the government during the times of the Civil Rights Movement, protesting in the Vietnam War, and the war on drugs. It of course received major backlash due to its sensitive topics that it covers and the depictions of the government and the police force, which would cause it to be blacklisted and buried in order to make this film's existence diminish. So let's see what the deal with this film is. But before I get on with the review, please take note that this is a pseudo-documentary, so everything that you are about to see is not real. Nor did it try to fool anybody to thinking that it was when it was first released back in the day. Additionally, this film is very outspoken with political and social beliefs, so if you're bothered by that kind of thing, well, this review is probably not going to be for you. And finally, when I review this film, I'm not trying to get you guys to believe in anything in any type of way. All I'm doing is presenting the narrative that the film has. So please, please, please don't take any of this to heart, I beg you guys. But with all that out of the way, let's continue with the video. The year is 1970. Tensions between the people and the state is out of control, and in order to maintain control of the people, the government created a new program to put detainees through trial and punishment. The crimes these people are usually arrested for range from rioting, assaulting a police officer, draft evasion, and even just trying to provide medical help to a hurt protester. This program takes place in a remote desert land about 100 miles away from Los Angeles. Every person will get their say in this tribunal, but all their constitutional rights have been stripped from them, even those protected in the Bill of Rights.
Motion for dismissal at this time.
Dismissal on what grounds?
Constitutional. In particular, First, Fourth, Fifth, and 14th Amendments.
Motion overruled.
How the fuck you gonna overrule the Constitution, man?
Keep the defendants.
Yeah, I really love that line right there. We get to see one group of people who are being tried, and another who are serving their sentence by accepting Punishment Park instead of federal penitentiary.
Turn us loose right here.
Jake Carlton, 15 to 21 years in the federal penitentiary or Punishment Park.
Punishment Park, and I'm heading back down here to have your troops surrounding this whole fucking tent.
William Luke Valerie, 7 to 10 years in the federal penitentiary or Punishment Park.
Yeah, it's definitely tempting to choose Punishment Park, but as you probably would have guessed, it has to be too good to be true. Punishment Park is only a 3-day sentence, but it seems like an impossible one to serve. Anyone who chooses this has 3 days to travel 53 miles in the hot desert with no food, no water, and they have to reach the American flag in order to be off the hook. Failure to do so or being captured by the police or the National Guard while you're reaching for the flag will result you in just switching to federal penitentiary. 53 miles in 3 days in the desert while being hunted by cops. Sounds like a for sure failure, right? But everyone is willing to give it a shot. And this is what you see for the remainder of the film. All these what seems ordinary folks slowly dying in the desert as they hope to reach freedom. Additionally, hearing these biased trials of the citizens trying to make their case, while the tribunal just rejects any word they say. And additionally, you get to hear everyone's opinion of the whole program called Punishment Park and the overall status of the country in the moment. Because this is a pseudo-documentary and they do a fantastic job at making it feel like a real one, with the top-notch acting, consistent staring at the camera, and the well-made interviews. What I also like is how they allow anyone to give their voice. At first, I was expecting only the detainees to be allowed to directly talk to the camera, but they actually allowed the tribunal and the police officers to have their voice as well.
I have a wife and family back home, and I guess, there's certain things you have to do for your country, but for all the abuse you have to take, and just seeing these characters having no respect for this country, and it's difficult. We sit there, we try and give them a chance to have a fair say, but they just don't seem to appreciate it.
You sound funny, but it isn't funny. I think there should have been more spank and less Spock in America, and our youth wouldn't be what they are today.
Man, they really could not have picked an actor that could have looked and behaved just like Lester Maddox as well as this dude. It just fits the bill so well. Being able to hear every side's expressions makes the scenes better since you more clearly understand the tension amongst them on a more personal level. Though the concept of this documentary seems simple, I'm unable to say that any part was boring or unnecessary. No character or scene goes off track, and I was definitely engaged throughout the film. Now, the content speaking of political and social opinions is where people will begin to get upset with the film. It's a very important element of the film, and no matter where you stand on the spectrum, you're more than likely going to have your beliefs challenged, either through hearing the people speak in their trials or seeing how the government is handling the current situation. The crew are definitely more on the side of the people than the tribunal and the police officers. You will get some decent in-depth learning of the detainees, hearing what they did and what they are fighting for in this country. While on the other hand, the tribunal are like talking walls whose minds are impenetrable, and the police officers are like these callous robots who the only time I sense any emotion in them is that you get the feeling they actually enjoy Punishment Park, or when they get extremely defensive from any scrutiny the camera crew gives them.
You're a marksman?
Yeah.
A sniper?
A more.
Have you ever killed a man?
Yeah.
Have you ever killed a man yourself?
Yes, I have.
What did you feel about that at the time?
There was no feeling at all.
Now, the wandering in the desert scenes are surely brutal and gut-wrenching, but it's the trial hearings that are the most intense and give the film the most amount of life. All the detainees are quite unique and they set their own defenses. They all have their own problems with the country and they have all suffered in different ways. I do admire their courage to stand up to the tribunal, though it is obvious that it's a losing situation. They never do succumb to them, and they never make it easy for them to progress through the trial. It's definitely them just letting out a lot of the feelings inside of their chest. The trade-off to that is that it makes compromising, understanding, and compassion an impossible task. The tribunal evade a lot of the rebuttals they receive, and even force them to be silenced and removed. These are some pretty powerful clips from a few of the trials.
And the responsibility that we have to this crisis. What responsibility do you have as a citizen of this country?
My responsibilities as a citizen in this country do not include killing for it. It is that as a war must be waged under the control of a loving disposition, that no man is fit to inflict punishment until he has banished hate from his heart.
You lying to everybody, but every time I hear you open up your mouth, all I hear is
Quiet.
point, you pig. That's
Quiet,
all I hear is
defendant.
point. You know, because you ain't got no humanity in you, because you're a pig. You lying punk.
Restrain the defendant.
Oh,
Restrain the defendant. Shut him up. Shut him up. Gag him. Shut him up.
Man, I know this is just a movie, but boy do they know how to make this seem realistic. It is very hard to sit through this stuff. While the hearings have a much livelier and intense vibe, the desert is slower paced and very depressing. Punishment Park is just hopeless, and you can't even be certain that they'll keep their promise of letting them go if they reach the flag. And the cops here do not feel any compassion for them, and they seem happy that they're there. The only times things did elevate was when they actually got one of the camera crew members hostage in a desperate attempt to escape Punishment Park, which luckily he managed to escape. And when they start fighting back in the desert, since they would rather die fighting than get sent to prison a broken human being. And slowly throughout the film, they all little by little, one by one get picked off, by dropping dead due to the climate, people just surrendering, or other people getting killed fighting the police. But most interesting piece was when they clashed with the National Guard, and the camera crew very openly condemned what happened.
Let the buzzard get the son of a bitches. We'll let him get him too.
They threw rocks and
This man shook up.
I was just,
Leave him alone.
Yeah, we
the
want
gun
to know
went
what-
off. It
we
was an
want to-
accident. I didn't want to kill anyone.
We want to know why you
was-
killed two people.
Just leave him alone.
I don't know. It was an accident.
You mean you didn't mean to kill them?
No, I didn't want to kill anyone.
You didn't want to kill
No.
them. But you shot
No!
people.
No!
But there are two people.
No, I didn't want to kill anyone.
Well, but
It was an
don't say
accident.
You shouldn't be
No.
killing
Hey,
anyone then.
hey,
It was a,
leave him alone.
No, but you
Leave him
shouldn't
alone.
be carrying a gun.
I didn't
I
want to
said
kill
leave him
anyone. It
alone,
was an
mister.
accident.
Let him go.
How old is this kid? How old is he?
He's 18.
Well, what the hell's a kid like that doing in the National Guard if he can't...
The tragedy, the nihilism, the hatred, it's just all over the place with so many characters in this film. In the end, all of the tried citizens were found guilty and elected 3 days at Punishment Park so that the nightmare cycle can just continue. The ending is probably one of the most shocking ends that I have ever seen. Only a few remaining people were left, and they were on their way to reaching the flag. Just when they thought it was all over, the police refused to let them finish, and they said that they were going to penitentiary no matter what, even though they were still within the time limit. Outraged by this bullshit, they still tried to get through, which resulted in all of them being beaten to death. It's very graphic and the acting is so intense, and I have to say at this point it almost felt real, like I was watching some viral video on social media. The cops here were fantastic in how convincing they were to the camera crew. It made my blood boil, and you just need to see at least a clip of it yourself.
What you did.
Practically the same reason he did. Because they had it coming to them. They had a chance to stop. Did they stop? I'm asking you, did they stop?
Because they rushed us. Well, that's not a reason, man. That's not a reason.
They wouldn't have rushed us if you hadn't been there trying. Oh, shit.
Come on, you were the one that started this.
I started it.
Come on, don't jump.
I told the man to stop. The captain told the man to stop. That's all there is to it. He didn't stop. He attacked me. I don't care what the fuck you think. How's that sound? I don't care what the hell you think. You can do what your newsreels, whatever you want. I don't care.
This is the second night this has happened.
To you, none.
You could have.
You're trying to make out like a big goddamn humanitarian. The only thing that you want is so you can sell this to your goddamn network and put money in your pocket.
I don't see you putting any band-aids on anybody, helping anybody out.
The audience will see.
All you want is some money for this program. Give it to me, shit.
You could have opened your ranks. You could have opened your ranks and let them go through. No. This happened in Chicago. It happened in Los Angeles.
Hey, buddy, were you in Chicago?
It'll happen again as long as we've got this type of element to deal with.
Wow, what a way to end a movie, right guys? There are very few times when watching movies that I feel that I was actually watching something real. It was just the way that the director was yelling at everybody in shock. The manner that the police officers spoke when they were stuttering, how they were catching their breath, how they had this callous attitude towards the crew members. I mean, it was some of the best acting that I've ever seen in my life. And you know what the craziest part is? Not a single one of them were professional actors. That's right, every person you see in this film is just as experienced in acting as you and me. But they are true to their character. Every activist/protester were real ones in that time. The tribunals as well. They were people who had the same type of belief as those characters. As far as I know, none of the cops were real cops. But the men were on the same side of the police and the government during the 60s and the 70s. That's pretty amazing how they managed to get people with such opposing views during these rough times to team up together and make a movie. This is the trademark of the director Peter Watkins, who primarily uses amateur actors to make these types of pseudo-documentaries depicting historic events that didn't actually happen. Like in this one, The War Game, which was a dystopian documentary of Great Britain that was under a nuclear attack, and Le Commune, taking place in Paris during 1870 about the working class revolting against the tyrannical government. While those two films are highly praised, highly distributed, and won awards, the same cannot be said for Punishment Park. When watching this film, it gave me the vibes of George Orwell's 1984 Animal Farm, both dystopian nightmares that tell a disturbing tale of being ruled by totalitarianism. No matter what side of the political spectrum you fall on, we all praise these books and both of their film adaptations. We take them very seriously, and we use them to give examples of how they could relate to real-life politics. The, I guess, mortal sin that Punishment Park has is basing itself off of real-life events. The film puts itself in the same time frame and being related to other people versus government moments, like the Kent State shooting, where anti-war protesters met with National Guard, and 4 people ended up being killed and 8 other wounded. Or the trial of the Chicago 7, who were accused of crossing state lines in order to incite a riot, where 2 of them actually got acquitted. These controversial events, where the people were totally divided on, did not put the film in any good light, and instead it was painted as propaganda for the activists. And many people were offended at Peter Watkins especially making a documentary about this. Since he was a British man, he by default had no right. He knew nothing about American politics and social life here. Okay guys, let's be fair. We in America have no room to talk about being misinformed from other countries' histories, but still having the nerve to make films and shows about them. Let's be honest. With Punishment Park being condemned by a certain political side, being pressured by a government that does not like to be criticized, and Hollywood being afraid of getting in trouble too, they refused to distribute this film, and instead it was blacklisted, which has led for this gemstone of a pseudo-documentary to be forgotten about. But honestly guys, fuck them all. This film was excellent, and nobody's political preference and power should be used to inhibit from art to be shown to the world. 9 out of 10, this was awesome. Anyways guys, that's the end of this video right here. I hope you enjoyed the review to the fullest extent, and please consider giving this dark pseudo-documentary a watch. If you guys don't mind hitting the like button and commenting down below, it helps the channel out a lot, and of course, I'm always down here guys' opinions. They mean the world to me, so please don't be shy. Again, thank you so much for watching. Take it easy, take care, and I'll see you guys next time.